But the last one are the ones you really have no control over. The thunderclap. It's over before you know it. And these are the ones that just destroy big games and big moments in finals. And it's the same names. It's Horne-Francis, it's Butters, and it's Dangerfield. Look how brutal this is. So they get it and they're gone. It's already defeated 4 or 5 of the opposition straight away. So they get to the outside through sheer speed and smarts, and they're super clean. All these guys are really clean. They don't give you a second chance. So that's a tap, kick, goal. It's over. So there's 15 people around that stoppage. So Butters is in this as well. And if you don't see it, it's because he's so crafty and so aggressive. Here, I love this ball a couple of weeks ago. Just bang, that's mine. In. He actually builds speed as he hits the ball. And this guy, he's still the king. I don't care what anyone says. And they're all talking about Horne-Francis and Butters and Rosie and all these guys on Thursday night. I've heard it all. He is still the king. And if you want to win on Thursday night, you've got to defeat this. This is from the grand final. The moments that absolutely matter, this guy is still there. Look at this clearance. These are back-to-back clearances that set up the first quarter victory for the Cats in 2022. So I look at that and I say, well, what sort of form's Danger in? 18 centre-bounce clearances the last 3 weeks. The next best's on 13. He's in rare form. 9, 11, 7 and 7 clearances the last month of footy. So I think there's one man that can rip the heart out of Thursday night, and I'm backing him in. I think the King will show why he is the clearance beast that the competition has marvelled at for years, and he'll show those who think they're challenging what the level actually is.
Yep.
And the best midfielders have got one of each.
Yeah.
Right?
Spot on.
The hunter-gatherer, the stoppage guy in there.
Yeah.
You know, you said that those stoppage guys, the Wines guys, don't get the accolade. You know who likes them the most? Those players running on the outside.
100%.
Because they know.
So do they try and tag Dangerfield? Do you think you have to stop
I
Dangerfield?
don't think you can stop him.
Yeah.
I really don't. And if you snooze, if you just give him that first metre, it's over. So you've got to get everything right against those guys. And Horne-Francis can do the reverse. Sure, he can. But the bar's here with Dangerfield. And I just wonder if he's going to flex on Thursday night.
Has he ever been tagged? Seriously? It's like 15th season footy.
Danger.
And he still thinks he's the king of the competition.
He still is.
So how do you stop the king?
Well, we watch it. It's hard to stop. That's why he's so good. It's hard to
Beauty
stop.
of finals, isn't it? They've got to come up with a strategy to defeat him.
All right, so once it's one there and it goes forward.
Beat that wasn't bad.
No, that was very good. I won't beat that.
Small balls.
I just want to put on watch for this final series.
Small
The
ball or short ball?
smalls.
Small ball.
The September specialists they are, and they are the smalls, because there's a lot of talk about, is it tall forwards, is it small forwards come finals time? But I think we've seen in recent years it is the smalls. So I just want to step through and have a look at last year's final series. So these are weeks 2 and 3, the semi-finals and prelim finals, and the players that did the damage, and they were the small forwards. So Willie Rioli and Toby Green played awesome games in that game. We were at Kingy last year. The number 1 and 2 rated forwards on the ground. They kicked 3 apiece and they set up another 3 each. Cozzy Pickett in the game against Carlton. Lincoln McCarthy was excellent in the prelim against Carlton. He had 18 disposals, kicked a couple, set up a couple, and of course Toby Green's prelim. So you can see where they were rated in the game on the ground, but also as a forward. So there were no tall forwards in there. Joe Danaher was probably the only exception in last year's final series. He was awesome. But everyone else, it was the smalls. And then you go to the last couple of grand finals. So when you actually look at the grand finals, Zach Bailey and Charlie Cameron were 4th and 6th rated on the ground. The number 1 and 2 rated forwards. Bobby Hill won the Norman Smith. He was the 4th rated forward. Joe Danaher was the one in between. And the year before, Kingy just showed that grand final in 2022. We know how good Stengel was, but Brad Close as well. So the smalls have had massive impact come finals time. So I thought, well, let's take a look at the players that can have that impact this year. And a lot of the small forwards are in really good form. So when you look at Cody Waitman, everyone's talking about the talls, but he's had 15 shots at goal over the last month, and he's had 27 score involvements. He's doing, and he's done it before. Remember the Essendon final in Tassie, he kicked 4, single-handedly won the game. We know about Toby Green's performance. In some ways, his year's been a little bit undersold. For his standards, he's still been pretty good, and he's peaking at the right time of year. Tom Papley was the 3rd highest rated forward in the competition between rounds 10 and 18 before he got injured. He's making his return, and we know that he's a proven finals performer as well. He was actually pretty strong in the 2022 finals series. Willie Rioli, we just spoke about him last year. He's kicked 9 goals the last couple of last month, and he's playing closer to goal. So since he's come back from injury, I think they've realised he maybe doesn't have the running power, but what he can do in the shoebox is going to be important. Charlie Cameron played his best game since midway through the year, and we know about the Tyson Stengel, and then you've got the Hawks, and there's 5 of them that are all playing some really good footy when you think of McDonald and Watson and Ginnivan and of course Bruce coming on as the sub. So they are going to be dangerous. They are going to be dangerous come finals time.
Before we get to that next graphic, why in finals is it smalls traditionally have more impact than talls? Why do great talls not dominate? What can you sort of discuss that for a second?
Well, Horny's been through this countless times and did some great work during the week. Ground ball is king.
Yep.
Because it's hard to outmark your opponent. There's
But
good
pressure,
defenders.
just pressure.
Good defenders get it to ground.
Yeah.
So the ground ball becomes the dominant product, and those smalls are onto it like a seagull on a chip.
And the pressure in the midfield doesn't get ball delivery.
And no longer in the old days when it was the
Fantastic.
carry and they had there was because more one-on-ones. You could outmark and beat your opponent. Tony Lockett in grand form. Now it's because of the team defences under pressure. It's ground level. So the smalls are going to play a role.
All right, so you've told us who we're watching. So what about the men who are pitted against
them? And does your team have one of these players? Because when you take a look and you go, right, who can sort of quell the influence of these smalls? And Brandon Starcevich, we've mentioned, he's done a terrific job this year. Like, he's been able to stop Stengel and Toby Green and all these guys. Cunningham's the one that's had a bit of an undersold year. He plays on the dangerous small forward. He's played on Brent Daniels both times. This year, I expect him to get that job on the smoking hot
That's
informed
enormous.
Brent Daniels, and he's done a great job on him. Kept him to 1 goal and 18 disposals combined in those 2 games. Taylor Giray is going to have to play on one of the smalls. That's going to be the challenge for me for the Bulldogs, though. Can Bramble and Fraser and Bailey Dale, who are offensive players, can they stop the Hawks' small forwards? Blake Harwick is going to play Cody Waitman. He's done the job the last 3 times and has beaten Cody Waitman. Connor Iden has played on Tom Papley both times this year and done a really good job on Tom Papley as well. And Adam Sard has had great matchups against Charlie Cameron. He beat him in round 1 and beat him in the prelim final last year. So there's going to be matchups galore. I know the midfield, we always go to the midfield, and that's where it's won and lost. Every coach will say the midfield is where it's going to be won or lost. But these are the matchups that might decide the game. Can a small forward kick 3 or 4 and set up a couple in some low-scoring finals? We know we'll get that. And can these defenders stop the influence of these players?
Are you worried about the ability? I know you mentioned
for the Dogs.
How worried are you of the Dogs stopping the Hawks?
Like, everyone's talking about, can Hawthorn defend the Dogs' talls? Well, as I've said, can the Dogs defend the Hawks? And I heard Jack Riewoldt talk about it. The big spaces of the MCG are going to challenge them. You look at maybe some teams and go, do they have that type of play? It was interesting, Geelong kept Jed Buse in, Jared, and maybe that is one because they might need someone for Willie Rioli, and it might be Jed Buse who can do that matchup. And Port Adelaide have lost their 2 half-backs. So, they're the ones that don't necessarily have that full-on lockdown, and that might be the challenge against the Cats. I know you're thinking the Cats smalls might be able to get a hold of Port Adelaide small defenders.
Great.